Okay, hello guys, welcome to our class. Today we'll speak about memory. We have a TED talk, which name is Feats of Memory. Yeah. Teacher, what is feats actually?
Feat.
Feats, yeah.
Feat. A feat is just an accomplishment.
Okay. So it's something that memory can do. Am I right? Okay. So let's talk a bit about our source, about this TED talk. So this guy, it's kind of, he said he's a journalist, he's a reporter, and he named himself like he's a scientific journalist. So he's a kind of reporter about science. And he was going to make a show, how we call it, reportage, actually, how we call it, like when a reporter writes something about specific event. What is this?
Article?
Yeah, just usually an article that requires research.
Okay, so he was going to write an article about a strange competition, a competition about memory. Yeah. So let's discuss it. And he started his TED talk with a nice trick. I think he started it in a very weird way, I would say. Teacher Lee, can you please invent some weird way for our TED talk class? Let's make a twist.
As far as what? As far as the topic, or?
Yeah, you mean, do you remember how that guy started his TED talk?
Right.
Can we do something like this?
Well, like I say, I put it in the chat. Let's say I want to remember the flag of Sweden. Okay, I can't remember flags usually unless I see them a lot. So I looked at Sweden's flag and I said, okay, they've got beautiful weather, so a sky of blue. So the flag has a blue background. And I imagine that Sweden's religious, so there's a cross on the flag. And then I imagine that Americans throw eggs at it, so the cross becomes yellow. So now Norway's got a yellow cross on a blue flag.
Yeah,
and then I told you about the Russian flag, right? Yours is white and blue and red. So I imagine that as the KGB being the evil secret police. They're white Russians. So white on white, you can't see them. They're invisible. They're hidden. They go underwater to kill the enemy. So they go, blue is underwater. And when they kill the enemy, there's a lot of blood. So white hidden, blue underwater, red blood. I can remember white, blue, red for the Russian flag because the KGB are evil.
But please be careful. You know, there is a country, Serbia, and another country, Czech Republic. They have the same colors and 3 stripes, but the order is different. You know.
Well, that's right. That's why I go from hidden to ocean to kill. So white, blue, red. That's why I did it in that order. Okay.
Okay. I think we have an idea now about this trick. So you added a lot of details to just a flag. Yeah, you described it well, and because you spoke about it, you probably will remember. Yeah. So, but let's return to the story, to the TED talk. Let's describe the TED talk, some lines from it, some points. Jürgen, would you like to point something from the TED talk?
Yeah. I don't know. No, I can't.
Okay. Vasant, would you like?
I like the part when he described how he was allured by one of the contestant in a memory. So how to call it? A contest for a memory power. So he got allured and he talked to him and he wanted to learn about that trick. Maybe that could help helped with him to write an epilogue for his article. So he went into the practice and he started to learn how he learned that memory is just it's not a gift. It's everybody has the same average memory power, and we have to train it. We have to boost it. So he learned that how our brain works, the way it memorizes all the things. So he started to learn, and he learned so many things. And the next year, he wanted to participate to give it a try. How does that work? And unfortunately, he won the contest.
Yeah. But why you say unfortunately? Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, but
Yeah, I think there is a nice idea, nice line why he started to learn, why he started to compete with others. Because as he said, he is a reporter. He wants to write an article that people will enjoy. Yeah, and he said that this contest is a very pretty. It's a ultimately boring thing. Yeah, if you just write about this, people will not read it ever. So, so he had to invent some way. Yeah? But what I like in this TED talk, it's the beginning. In the beginning, he started to talk about internal memory and external memory. So nowadays we kind of externalizing, I don't know how to pronounce it, our memory. We use smartphones, we use Google, we use, I don't know, a lot of things, electronic things, just to not remember anything. You know, I don't need these dates, I don't need this knowledge, I always can Google. Yeah? So I found that very interesting line, because I can see this. I can see that myself, and younger generations, they don't care about small facts. They don't memorize them. Yeah, it's interesting. Gerard, would you like to add something about this TED talk?
Yes, because I read in the past a book related to that. It was written by Dominic O'Brien, and he was a champion for 8 times, world champion. Mm-hmm. And he used his ability. He went to the casino and played blackjack and made a lot of money. But then after that, he was banished of going to any casino, because, you know, you cannot do that in theory. So if they don't know, when they realize that you are winning all the time, they might think, okay, this guy is using memory tricks. So, but he made a lot of money.
Yeah, so you see, it can be useful. Yeah, you can make. And do you remember our movie from previous class? I forgot what it was about quiz game, quiz show. Yeah, about erudites. But is it the same or not? You know, if you memorize like useful things, or what is interesting about this context? You know, these guys memorize like weird things, some numbers, some random numbers, some you know numbers from the number P or something like this. So totally useless things. Why they do that? Just to demonstrate their ability? Yeah. If you please, teacher.
I just said I would say so. It's just a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So you cannot be prepared, right?
I want to know how they remember just zeros and ones. I mean, how can you visualize something with just zeros and ones? You only got two images, you know. I don't understand how they can do that.
Yeah, and it was a like impressive thing. Yeah, he said that one guy, he can memorize in half hour. How much I forgot, but it's like
4,000
number. 4,000.
Yeah.
4,000 numbers, like binary numbers, 1 and 0. Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah, I don't
know. Vasant, please.
Yes, when I was in my 7th grade, me and my friends, we were actually the above average guy and the top of guys. But we had one friend who is below average, who had struggled with learning, memorizing English paragraphs. We had to write the paragraphs about Edison. So so one of my friends and me decided to teach him, to train him. So we went to him and we started to ask him to memorize the things. And he said, okay, see this, check this, I'm going to recite the character. Then he started to like EDISON WASBORN, like Edison was born. He started to spell each letter very quickly. We were amazed, like what? We thought he is a below average guy, but he could remember things so well. So the matter is, we have the same memory power, but the way we use is different. So the capacity is the same, but the way we use is really different.
Yeah, I understand. So he like impressed you by a trick, I think. Gerard, please.
I read this trick of the memory palace, but I yet don't understand how to use that to memorize a whole book, a telephone book. You know, how to use that. You know, make those relations between numbers and constructs, because there must be a lot of constructs to remember all this whole amount of numbers. I don't understand how they do that.
I think it's what teacher Lee mentioned before, yeah. So if you have memorized, for instance, English words, just a dictionary, it's understandable. You just make an image of every word, you add details. For instance, if you have a boat, you add sail, wind, sea, something, and you have an image. Yeah, but if you have like 0 and 1 continuously repeating, so I have no idea what you connect to it. Yeah, maybe some melody, just code something, just code like I don't know. Strange.
One person had 0 in one hand and 0 in the other hand, and they went to one city, 1001. But
Yeah.
it gets complicated.
Yeah, probably we have to do more research about this.
And the phone book, how they do that? I don't understand.
I don't know. Do you think that I think that in phone book numbers are not random? They are like consequent numbers, like right?
No. The
No?
names are in alphabet order.
Okay, so we need sorted by numbers first, and then use trick with family, with names, I think. But I don't know actually.
I don't know how.
So we understand the idea, yeah, but idea sometimes not enough. We have to find a way to how to apply it actually to real life, and it's a problem, yeah. But this guy, he succeeded, right? He won the contest. So probably in his book he wrote about this trick. So we need just a volunteer who will learn this and show us after. Yeah. So another guy, yeah, please.
I'm thinking that memory contest he won must have been like amateurs like him, not those experts. There's no way he could have beat those guys.
But he said that there is few contests like this, so probably maybe just one,
I don't know.
Yeah, sounds weird this contest, yeah. So another line. Do you remember another line in this TED talk? There were actually two. One about brain activity in this I forgot the name for this machine, MTI or something, MIT.
MRI.
MRI, yeah. In this MRI, they kind of try to investigate what is the difference between a control group and those savant guys, yeah. And they found that they use like special areas. John, could you please explain us what is spatial areas?
A special area of our brain.
Yeah.
There are different parts, and with an MRI, the ones that are activated appear on the screen. So it looks like this guy. I did those guys who memorize things, and light some parts of the brain that normal people don't usually do, something like this.
The areas of the brain that were activating were navigation and spatial relationships, 3D location type relationships, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, but if you think more about this, it's kind of, it can be logical, you know. So I mean, humans, we still kind of animals, you know. And I think that our brains, that not designed to be like a brain for mathematics or math or poems or something. We are like animals, you know. We have to jump to yeah, to hide our food in the forest and to find it after. Yeah, so it's our genome. Yeah, so I think those guys, they try to like to, what's the word for this, to make this to adapt the task for this like field, something like this, to use this rudiment abilities, something like this. Yeah. So one line was about MRI, and another interesting line was about old ancient Greek philosophers or orators. Can we say
poet? A poet. I think it was a poet.
Poet. Okay. Someone who delivered a speech to a big audience.
That's an orator. Yeah.
Orator.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he said that they used to memorize their speeches, yeah, but not like exactly word by topics. And these topics from Greek topo, which means space. It's kind of, I don't know, looks strange. It's hard to believe. Probably it's a IT joke. Probably you have not heard it, but we tell the joke. We say the joke like, you trying to I cannot actually translate it. You know, a bird owl, yeah, and you try to. Oh no, sorry, I cannot translate it. I will try now a chat after. Gerard, please.
Do you remember this guy did his play, and then the building fall down, and he was able to all the bodies were mold. The people couldn't recognize who was who, but he was able to remember the position of every person in the audience.
Yeah. I think stress is important. Stress is an important factor in this exact episode. Is my impression, because sometimes, you know, there was a good book, I read it once, and it has a line. It has a line that we always memorize events that stress us, or that something like this. If you had a big event during the day, we remember the whole day better than the just ordinary day. So sometimes when we have an ordinary day, I just went to school and then got back, we don't remember this day at all. But stress, yeah. But if at that exact day you had, I don't know, some incident with a car or something, so you remember not only this incident, but you remember the whole day better. So I wake up at 7 a.m. I ate an egg, and then I drink a coffee. Yeah, so it's kind of, I don't know how it works, but in article I read, it was like a proved thing.
Like in America, everybody knows what they did in 9/11.
Yeah.
You know, because it was so important that everybody. I was watching by chance the news at the same time, so I watched at the moment the second plane hit the second building, and it was a moment that I will always remember.
Yeah, good point. I was at work with the nuclear plant, and someone said, "Look at this," and we went into the break room, and we were all in the break room watching this on TV, going, "This can't be right," you know. We just couldn't believe it. It was like, wow.
Yeah, so, like a show, like something unreal. Yeah, but usually, what did you eat at that day?
Yeah, that I can't remember, but I remember watching the TV in the break room. I don't remember the whole day.
Yeah, I was just checking, you know.
I know, yeah. But I think I read an article that explained why you remember things like this. It has to do with certain hormones in your mind, and when something triggers a strong emotion, I'm trying to remember. It's like the endorphins, but something else, and it helps burn that memory into your mind stronger. So it's a fact, like you said, that we do remember strong, emotional, stressful things better, and it's because of how the body works. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you remember my analogy with with monkeys, with animals, I think it's important for them. If you went to some place and tiger hunted you, so you remember that you should not go to this bridge.
Yeah. There's snakes over there. Oh God. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the talk? What you remember? Anything interesting? What else? Have you something? Do you have something?
No.
Gerard does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
No,
please.
I like the conclusion of the TED Talk, that our lives are made of memories. So it is important to remember. I don't know if you have seen a movie named Memento.
Mhm.
It's the guy that only remembers 1 minute or two of his life. He has to write something, it's an illness, a special illness. So it could be horrible not remembering what our past.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah, it's memory. Exactly, it's our life. Yeah. Sometimes people, I'm now in a tourist place, and sometimes I ask people why you was there or something else. They tell me that they are buying memories. It's what they actually do. Yeah.
Yep.
Jürgen, please.
I remember he talked about the man who he couldn't remember he had a bad memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's better than remember that you have it's better not to suffer from this than suffer, in my opinion. Yeah. But there is a illness, Alzheimer, am I right? That like make our memory even more weaker when we're getting old or something.
Yeah. Alzheimer's.
Okay, Alzheimer's, yeah. And I read in one article that exercising with your brain, like learning language or making something else, it postpones this syndrome for long. Yeah. So if you worried about this, if you met the person who suffered from this and you impressed it, probably you have to study something new. Yeah, and actually in my family we had a person who suffered from dementia, yeah, and I can remember that it's actually a disaster, yeah, actually, and for her and for everyone, yeah.
Can't even remember your family. It's like, who are you? I'm your son. You are? I don't think I have a son. Yeah, that would be terrible, Oh.
Oh yeah, I have a son, and your name is, I don't know, Mary or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if we finished with that talk, yeah. So the conclusion, as Gerard said, I would add something. So the life is kind of our life is kind of our memory. I would agree with this. Another conclusion that we can train our memory, and anyone can do this. You don't have to be like a special one. Anyone can do it. And what else? Any other summary conclusions?
We had another TED Talk that was very similar to this, where it was like define happiness.
Yep.
And I think the conclusion was that our memories define our happiness. If you've got good memories and you look back, you remember, I was happy, I've had a good life because you got good memories. But if you had horrible memories, you wouldn't really feel happy at the moment because your memories, kind of drag you down, I guess. So it's interesting that we define ourselves generally by the past rather than the present.
Yeah. And I found interesting that some persons tend to remember only negative things, and other persons tend to remember positive things. So I can see it sometimes. Sometimes we discuss like common experience with my friends, and I said something like, it was a fantastic trip. We watched it. We have seen this and that. And they say, yes, but you know, the dinner was terrible in that restaurant. I already forgot about it. So
Yeah.
in some regard, we can kind of manipulate this, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you wonder, why do they remember the negative stuff? You know, are they negative people? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe because of, I don't know, stress or something. Something makes them, to remember this better. Yeah. Maybe some people, some just naturally tend to choose like a part to remember. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No idea. Okay, if you Jean, please.
Yes, you know what happens sometimes with negative things, that they are buried in our subconscious, and people have problems and have to go to the psychiatrist or psychologist. And they need to be aware of this problem. Otherwise, they have a problem and they are not conscious of it. They are not aware and they cannot solve it. I think it's something happened with the protagonist of our movie Class next Sunday. Will Hunting.
Yeah. So sometimes you just have this problem, negative kind of relation to the world or something, but you don't understand it, and you going down and down, and you can become to suicide or something, Vasans, please.
Yes, I want to share an example. Imagine that we have a water bottle with a mud in it. So it's so clumsy, so dirty. So what would you do to keep it clean? So we have to let it be untouched, so that the mud would remain at the bottom and the water will be clean. So, but what we do is we shake it, we roll it on the floor. So this happens with our memory too. When the negative things happens, we are trying to forget it, but we unconsciously we are thinking about it again and again because we want to forget. So it happens. So the negative thing easily stays with our mind.
Yeah. So we just subconsciously replay the same and how it's happened. Yeah, and that's why it's like teacher said, burned in our memory. Yeah, we cannot get rid of it.
We have a kind of a stereotype or an anecdote that sometimes you'll go to work, or you'll be traveling to work, and you'll hear this music tune playing over a radio, and suddenly it just sticks in your mind, and all day long you're humming this tune, and you say, God, stop humming that tune. You know, you just can't get it out of your mind. We don't know why.
It works with me many times, and I don't know how to stop it.
You know, I mean, sometimes there are songs like they are played all the summer. At the beginning, they sound good, but with the time, we cannot avoid them. You know, we are fed up of them all the time listening to this song. And now, first I thought it was nice, a good song, but now I don't like it.
Yeah, but it's exactly the point from our previous TED talk. Do you remember this Buddhist monk? He said that even a perfect thing will bore you with a repetition. The same we have with this song.
And if you remember the song Pina Colada, the Pina Colada song, or Escape, one of the lines is there that he and his wife were getting bored with each other, like listening to our favorite song over and over and over. And after a while, it's like, I don't want to listen to this song anymore. So same idea, yeah.
But you know what is interesting? There is a kind of humans creatures that they never get bored of something, and the name for them children. You know, sometimes on YouTube, you know, some cartoon movies on YouTube, they have like 12 millions of watching. Yeah, so it's like a top of the top. No one can watch the same, and I can see that with my children. They can watch the same exactly cartoon for weeks without without getting any sign of bored or of being bored or something. Why? Why do you think? Why we lose this ability when we get going to be adults? Why we have? Why our children have it? Not our like human children.
I think that's an easy question actually, because how do children learn? They don't learn rules. They don't study grammar rules. They just learn by listening. So they just, the way they learn is they just listen to it and listen to it and listen and listen and listen and listen and listen. And then eventually they understand the rules. And because their mind is kind of empty, everything is just new to them. Even if it's the same thing, it's still kind of new because their mind is so empty. So they're just fascinated by everything. Wow, 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 you know.
Exactly. That's why I like so much to have my boys with me when I travel, because sometimes I just don't see, you know, something new. Okay, it's a forest. Okay, it's a wolf. Okay, it's all the same. But they just react like, father, look at this. It's a, yeah, it's a tree. It's a green tree.
It's got bark. Yeah. Look at this leaf. There's a bug on it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And somehow you adapt this mindset. I think that you can see, you start to see, yeah, really, it's an interesting tree. Yeah, it's a huge one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. It's like we were. I remember a day. I remember one day when I was at a store with our kids, and it started raining real heavy, and water was all over the parking lot. Everything was just soaking wet with this much water, and we were standing under the roof of the store looking out, and my kids were fascinated by this heavy rain. They'd never seen it before, and they said, "Daddy, can we run out in the rain?" I said, oh, okay. So they just ran out in the rain and just stomping their feet in the water because it was just fascinating. They'd never seen a big rain before, and they got all soaking wet, and they just loved it.
I understand.
But only one time. After that, it wasn't new anymore. They were old enough.
But there are always a lot of reasons, you know, barking dog, you know, bug, as you mentioned, yeah, so a lot of them, yeah. It never stops. Okay, if we finished with that talk, I think we did. I can't remember any lines. We have a few questions. Thank you, Vasant, for your questions. You're always saving our day. Yeah. So the first one, what are the tricks you know to boost your memory? I can answer this that actually I don't use any tricks, and I consider my memory is very weak. I never know any dates, you know. Sometimes people like to be like erudites. They memorize a lot of things like when Titanic sunk, yeah? But what date? I don't know. I never knew. So when I learned in school, my teachers not insisted on this. You can Google this. I think already at that time. So my memory is short. I always forgetting everything. I have to repeat again and again. Something like this.
Some of the tricks we use in school were sentences, where the first letter of every word helped you remember a sequence. So we remembered mother very earnestly makes jelly sandwiches under no protest. And that's how we remember the order of the 9 planets.
Oh, good one.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and at that time Pluto was number 9. Yeah. So sentences is one way you can use a mnemonic trick to help you remember things.
I can recall one about Spectre, you know, some Roger GB, yeah?
Yep, Roy G. Biv, yeah.
Roy GB, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It sounds like a man's name.
Yeah.
So we can kind of remember a man named Roy G. Biv. He's got a middle initial.
Yeah. But we forget about a nice point about Baker. Let's ask Sergey about it. Hello, Sergey. Can you speak?
Hello, how are you? Yeah.
Yeah, we are fine. So, did you have a chance to watch TED Talk? Our TED Talk?
Yes.
I think we already covered it, but we forgot exactly one line about Baker. Do you remember it?
Yep.
Can you please explain us what it's about?
We have one experiment when the person told to other person about the similar sound words baker. One person he told the baker as a second name. Two persons the baker as job. And the second person remember the baker better than the first person because he has an association. Baker is a white hat, has a hand with
Bread.
the bacon
Cake.
bread.
Cake.
Yeah, cake. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
interesting for me. Very interesting for me because it's work, and I remember about a story when the nudist bicycles with some cakers on the horses. It's surprising for me. I remember it, and I will remember it in 1 year maybe because it's a very flight memories for me.
Okay, I can show you one trick. Okay, what I'm going to do now? I just set a reminder in a Google calendar 1 year from now to ask you about this nudist things. You know, so
Yeah.
so we can check it. But you see, I'm not going to remember it. Yeah, I use Google Calendar for this. To remind me, it's a way for me to externalize, to keep my memory in external thing. Yeah.
Right.
In Spain, to teach the multiplication tables, they use a trick. They make like a song, like a sing song. They say 1 by 1 is 1, 1 by 2 is like a song. So don't make it as much boring that it is remembering the multiplication tables. You know how important they were in the past because they didn't have calculators. So
every American, okay.
Please, teacher.
Every American knows this tune. Da 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 da. That's the alphabet song.
E, C, D, E, F, G. I sing it every day.
Every kid knows that song.
Who took the cookie from the cookie jar? Another one. Yeah, there are a lot of mnemonics. Yeah, it's a mnemonic. Yeah.
Mnemonic, yep.
Mnemonic, and mostly we use them for children. Vasant, do you use some on your post office job?
Yeah, not in my post office, but when I was in my college, we used to use these mnemonics. When we were asked about types of management system, we used to remember that, like a strategic management, tactical management, and operational management. So we have to memorize all these three types. Then we remember, like, okay, think about the football player Neymar. He has a strategy and he uses tactic to deceive the other players, and he had an operation recently on his leg. So remember all these three things. Like we had such funny things to remember all these.
Yeah, so you already use it, you know. So it's not rocket science, you know. Ancient Greeks knew that, we know that, so no rocket science. But actually, what mean your sexist saying in our chat?
What means what?
Sexist saying in our chat.
A sexist say?
Yeah.
Oh, that. Oh, be a fine girl. Kiss me is the star classes of stars from hottest to coldest. They have a class O, that's the hottest blue-white star. and then class B and A and F and G. G is our Earth. Our Earth is a G-class star, kind of a little bit warm. And then K and M are the cooler red stars. So the way people remember the star classes in orders, they remember, oh, be a fine girl, kiss me. That's another famous mnemonic.
Okay. Sergey, can you share, you know, some mnemonic you use, something that you can translate, you know? I know it's not simple.
I know one very famous mnemonic in our country, and I think that in other countries you have the similar mnemonic about rainbow color.
Yes, spectre. You mean a poem about
rainbow color?
Yeah, rainbow. They call it spectre, like colors of the spectre. Yeah, red, blue. Yeah. Yeah.
Each hunt in Russia, I don't know how speak English in the mnemonic, but in the translator, each hunter have to know where sits the bird.
Yeah. So it's kind of, when you translate it to Russian, it's what teacher Liv wrote. It's every word starts with the same letter as a color. Yeah, so
right.
The same idea. So what about boys? Teacher Liv, every fine boy does good.
I think I got that wrong. In music, you've got 5 lines and 4 spaces. So the 4 spaces are face, F-A-C-E.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember the lines. We had something like every good boy does fine or something like that. I forget what it is now, but it helps us remember what notes are on the lines and what musical notes are on the spaces when we're reading music.
Well, I used to learn that when I was young, but we had another mnemonics. Yeah, mnemonic in Russia in my time, it was a big stick in your teacher's hand. Yeah, so.
That works also. Strong memory, right? Strong emotion. You remember.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about tricks, or we can go to another question? Okay, another is kind of similar to this, so we can use it. So the same. What about your schools and colleges? Do they concentrate on memorizing instead of understanding? And it's interesting, I would say. Yeah. Jar, what do you think? In school and colleges, memorizing or understanding?
It depends. I had a teacher, history teacher, who liked we understand history rather than the dates and the events, you know, themselves. So in the exams, they ask why were the reasons that happened or the consequences of something so important. Yes. But he didn't ask the exact date, you know, but he understand the history.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, but did not you have to pass some exams with dates or something?
So we had to remember something, but at this time it was impossible to cheat as easily as we can do nowadays.
When I was in school, I had in history, we had to just remember dates, day, month, and year. And I'm like, who cares what day, month, and year this happened? I'm not going to remember this in 5 years or even tomorrow, most likely, you know, but yeah, in history, we had to just memorize dates. Just, it was terrible. Now, it's interesting that in America, you know, we're known for individualism and creativity because generally we don't learn by memorization. We, as Gerard was saying, we try to think and, you know, reason and why. But a lot of countries like China, they still teach by just memorization today. They just memorize, and it's very stressful. And they spend all their time at home memorizing, going to cram schools, memorizing. They probably memorize 16 hours a day so they can excel in school. And the result is when they graduate, they don't know anything because they can't think, you know?
Yeah. But they can write, you know, 20,000 characters, and we don't. Yeah, we cannot.
That's true. Well, they can't do that either. They had to simplify their alphabet.
Yeah, I read that now they have like 5,000 at all. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the average student after the university can write and understand only 5,000, and it's
Really? Wow.
it's not too much as used to be. But
Yeah.
but still looks strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vasant, what about you? What was the focus of your school or college?
Yeah, it's definitely memorizing, and very few teachers concentrate on truly understanding the concept. But most of the people are still trying to impose the memorizing concept because everybody is running after the marks and grades, because the education became business nowadays. So they have to show the results in order to grab the next academic year's admissions. So they always run towards the marks and grades. And interestingly, I shared a movie titled to you, Three Idiots. It's based on the Indian education system, and it was a blockbuster in India, and also it was re-released in China. It got a huge blockbuster. So because they have the same educational system that imposes the memorizing thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. So I have my own answer, but I know that Sergey's answer is always better about Russia. He lives in different Russia. Sergey, what do you think about memorizing and critical thinking and all these things?
In the school, and when I used to go to usual school in my city, and we have more memorizing and less thinking, critical thinking, and we don't have the discussion. We didn't have the disputes. We didn't have the reflection about our mistakes. We have only skills. We had only information from teachers. It's all. And in the high school and my executive education in my job, we have more discussing, more reflection, more disputes about one problem. We try to find other decision for each problem. The first decision, second decision, the third decision, other decision. And I think that is more interesting than only memorizing, but it's a memorizing that's very important for us because I used to work as an electric engineer. It's very important because I have to know a lot of rules about electric, and if
Yeah.
I didn't,
Yeah, I understand. So
if I
there's
didn't
a
know it,
yeah, there's like a critical field of knowledge that you have to know, like like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so to be to being safe, as an yeah.
I didn't understand that one.
Yeah, I mean that that when you work with some dangerous things, like for instance, teacher Lee worked with a nuclear factory or something,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
cannot Google every time what should I do if something goes wrong, yeah? So you have to know.
yeah, yeah.
An example that's interesting is if you know about electrical things, a resistor.
Yep.
A resistor is so small, it has colored rings. And the colored rings tell you a number, but you have to memorize the colored rings. This is 1, this is 100, this is 1,000. So sometimes you have to memorize, as that's what Yvonne was saying. You have to always memorize some basic things, but not everything,
Hans, please.
I forgot to share one thing. We have a public exam in certain levels, and we have theory exams as well as practical exams. But in practical exams, eventually we have to write down all the observations we have done during the practical session. So, and it will be evaluated eventually. So there is no point whether you have got the result while you're doing the practical. If you wrote the observations and the answer in the answer sheet, then it will be evaluated and you will get good marks. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So what kind of conclusion we can make? I think there is must be some balance between memorizing and critic and understanding. I think so because sometimes I get easily annoyed by nowadays millennials. They go to work with me to my company, and they always answer is I will Google this. Yeah? Whenever you ask, they don't care. They will Google. So sometimes it's just about time. Sometimes it's about effort. Yeah. So you cannot rely on them. So there is it's a hard. I don't know where to draw a line between memorizing and all the things. I think every education system tries to find a balance. I don't know. Some are worse, some are better. We will see.
I'll give you a couple of interesting insights. When I first joined the nuclear industry back in 1980, we had to take a comprehensive test to get our license. Pass fail. If you 80% or higher is a pass, below 80 is a fail. And in 1980, the test methodology was writing what you knew. Write everything you know about this, and you just write and write and write and write until your hand hurts. And I took 8-hour tests and 9-hour tests. It was horrible. And of course, when I'm writing 20 pages, someone has to read that and grade it, right? Now, 2 people can read that, and they'll come up with 2 different grades because it's kind of subjective. Oh, he didn't mention this. He loses credit. Oh, that's not important. You don't need to take, So even the graders couldn't agree on the same grade. It wasn't consistent. And because your job depends on your getting a license and maintaining it, people would actually sue in court if you graded them incorrectly. Well, I don't think this is wrong. Well, it is. Well, I don't think so. And they would go to court and sue over grades. So over several years, what's happened now is every test is multiple choice. The answer is A, B, C, or D. And everybody has an answer key, and everybody grades it the same. Boom, 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 boom. And when we create a test, someone else looks at that test, maybe 2 people, and they make sure that every question has only one correct answer because they didn't want lawsuits. So now the grading's very easy. It's A, B, C, D. Any dummy can grade an exam now. And there's no argument. There's no gray. Everything is black and white. So a lot of times it's either because the teacher's lazy and doesn't want to have to work hard, or that objectivity is important. You want there to be one answer and 20 people will grade it the same way. So that's another issue.
And we adapted the system to Russia, but let's Sergey tell about this, yeah? Sergey.
About the system of what?
System of grading in our schools.
I try to hear the teacher very attentively because we had the similar system for testing in as electric engineer. We have a lot of questions and we have the text answers, not A, B, C, D. You had to explain your decision for each problem. It's not it's not white or black, because it's very simple, because you had to understand the process of the electrical machine. It's a very difficult for understanding, but that's why we try to memorize some rules of electric engineering. But I wanted to say about other problem, and we know the teacherly experience in 80s, and we know Ivan experience in now era when he told about his colleagues. I think that now we stay before new era when in maybe 30 or 50 years, a lot of people will have the Alzheimer disease because it's a question in the Google very simple way. Okay, Google, what's happened? It's all, and we are stopping to thinking about the problem. We are stopping to find the answer for a modern problem. We have the Google. Yep,
Yeah.
it's a very simple.
Yeah. So the youngs are not that smart as used to be. Yeah.
It reminds me of the movie Starship Trooper. Do you remember Starship Trooper? I'm just going to push a button. Why do I need to learn how to use a gun and all this stuff? So he says, stick out your hand. Shoot, throws the knife in. What if you don't have a hand?
Medic!
That's right. So what if I take your cell phone away? If I take your cell phone away, you don't know anything. You're an idiot, you know? There's nothing up here. So, yeah.
But actually, I don't see the future that negative. I know that there are many brilliant kids, nowadays. They just use the more useful tools that we did not have. These tools, they use them and they use them very efficiently. So when we used to what's the word for this? When old man not happy about something and he's mumbling, bah, 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 bah. So so it's what we do. Yeah, yes, these young they don't understand anything. Mumble, yeah, grumble, yeah. But actually, they are just smarter. They just have more opportunities and all the things.
Yes, but you want to use these opportunities. You want to more. You want to have more information for your mind. But a lot of people play in smartphone. It's all.
Yeah, it's another problem. Yeah, I agree. Yep. What else?
Yes, in ancient times, people didn't have any paper to write down, so they remembered in their mind. And after that, another generation came who used to write down things to save it. So they saved it in a particular in a safe or something else to use it later, because not to lose it. But the problem is people who born between the line, on the verge of two different generations. So like us, we experienced both the pre-computer and the post-computer era. So we just used it. If we born after the computer, then we would have used it wisely to remember all the things and use it wisely. Yeah.
Maybe the first monkey who took the stick, other monkeys was unhappy about. We were unhappy about this. It's a cheat, Gerard?
Yeah, the problem of our children have those tools, but the problem is they spend so many hours playing video games like Fortnite, many hours. I asked a child, what's your record of playing video games? He told me 18 hours in a row. That's too much. My record was when I was in my 20s, maybe 5 hours, but 18 hours.
Is it a problem? So let's ask Sergey. Sergey, what was your record when you was young in video games and in drinking vodka?
in my experience, and one time when I was 20 years ago, after 21 years ago, after the Russian army, I played to the Heroes of Might of Magic 28 hours without stopping. It's without interruption. After that, I stopped to play the video game because I wasn't very
You just overcome your limits here.
Overhand, and then now after that I didn't play 20 years, not 20 years, 80 years, because I have as a прививка.
Yeah, you got an allergy to this, right?
Yeah.
You have a vaccination.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but my point was different. My point was when modern guys play video games, yeah, so it's a bad. We consider it like a bad thing. But when I was young, what we did when I was young, we just drink something, smoking something, and all those things. Is it worse than video games? I'm not sure. Yeah?
More interesting, but
Yeah, kind of interesting, yeah, but maybe more dangerous, not so healthy, maybe. Okay. So, teacher Lee, if you had a chance, to start from the scratch, what time would you choose to be a millennial or to be like in old good America?
I think the old days. I think we have an advantage at our age over the young people today because we knew a day before cell phones, before computers, when what was up here was important.
Yep.
And now the new people that are born, they've got this instant computer all the time. They've never had that discipline or that value of knowing things up here.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to lose their cell phone, we can fall back on our old habits of how to do things with what's up here. But I think new people would be lost because they don't have that experience before the day of the cell phone because they were born with it in their hand. So I think the old days are better, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. And let me answer you with a joke. One day in I know I shared it. Let me share again. So one day in California, Instagram was down, and people started to starve to death. Because they could not to make a photo of their food in the restaurant, so they cannot eat. Yeah. Nowadays it's all different. Okay. But I think our time is run out. Thank you very much for this TED Talk. It was fantastic, I say. Please welcome. Your suggestions always welcome. Please come with suggestions and see you on weekend with a movie, Good Will Hunting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
bye.
Bye, everyone.